Hey there, welcome to another episode of Star Wars Minute. It's your daily podcast in which we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate The Last Jedi, one balanced minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
And I'm Ken Plume, KenPlume.com, and I didn't know there would be prop work.
Welcome back to the show, Ken.
Thank you for having me back.
There you go.
It's so exciting.
What are you drinking, Ken?
I'm having a sun-kissed zero sugar.
Taste the aspartame. Welcome back to the show. We're talking about minute 49 today, minute 49 of The Last Jedi. It starts off with Luke giving a lesson 1 in the Force. Sit there with your legs crossed. First thing to remember. It ends a minute later with Rey telling Luke that she'll try again.
Mm-hmm.
This is my favorite scene in the film. This is my absolute favorite scene in this film.
This is why you're here, I think.
This is it.
Why?
Serendipitously, this is my absolute, just as a performance.
What do you like about it?
I love Mark Hamill being Mark Hamill to the Mark Hamillist in this moment. and Daisy Ridley just matching beat for beat as a comedy character beat. It's not a thing that you see a lot in Star Wars, of having fun with the Force or training.
Fun with the Force. That's section 2 in the tutorial.
Yeah. Not fun with
section 2 of Luke Skywalker's Fun with the Force. Please insert tape number 3. Yeah, just as a taking it down a notch as far as just the solemnness of this Force training. Also, he's a bit of a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
And you clearly see that he took most of his lessons and teaching from Yoda. So you can almost imagine how he would have been with his students at the academy. And there was just a lot of sort of rap knuckles and bonks on the head.
Jedi pranks.
Speaking of, I know yesterday we got into a lot of time and travel discussion.
Mm-hmm.
How long has it been since Luke? I've never been able to find a hard date as to how long is Luke supposed to have been in exile? How long ago did Kylo Ren team up with Snoke?
Do you think he was like puttering around for a bit after the whole betrayal, burning of the academy sort of depression thing?
I don't know. I mean, it just seems this seems like he's been here for years, like based on this. I feel like he's been there for like 10 years or something. The fact that it's so mysterious and no one knows where he went and like that,
So an entire generation has not known Luke Skywalker to be an active element.
That's what it sounds like to me, but
and what's the time period where is it like
figure it out if it's
10 years? How much older is Kylo Ren? Because he's supposed to be 19 in the flashback?
That's a good question. Did they say how old he was in the flashback?
Late teen? I mean, it's implied that he's a teenager, at least.
Yeah,
right?
I can't tell.
Let's see.
And how much younger is Rey supposed to be than Kylo Ren?
It's funny that when you click on Kylo Ren in Wikipedia, it says, "Oh, you mean Ben Solo?" It takes you to Ben Solo.
No, I don't mean Ben Solo.
No, I don't mean Ben Solo.
Yeah.
Let's see. 24 years after the Battle of Endor, the truth about Solo's mother Organa's parentage was revealed by her political enemies. Right? We talked about that, I think, at some point.
Imagine someone's running for president and then it turned out their father was Darth Vader.
I just, in a weird kind of twisted thing, I was just reading about the Senate troublemaker or Congress troublemaker, Lauren Boebert, that she has an unresolved paternity suit against former professional wrestler Sweet Stan Lane. It's like, which added another whole level of crazy to that whole thing. But
was this revealed in a video before they went to commercial?
Yeah, it's a work, but no, it's I don't know. I mentioned it in somebody else is like, yeah, you didn't hear that? Like, that was a thing. Like, when she first was on the scene, everybody was like, yeah, that's her dad is most likely Sweet Stan Lane. And I was like, oh, okay.
Also, her dad is the wrestler, not. I thought she
Right.
had a baby and was saying that wrestler was the father of the baby.
No. She's saying, hey, this
okay.
wrestler is my dad. And the wrestler and his wife are saying, like, no. But there's a whole thing
And then
about
there was
that.
a whole match over it to decide what the truth was.
Vince McMahon never told you what happened to your father.
Exactly.
Fling in the ring.
I can't find a date on this here, it looks like.
I think they keep it vague. I've never seen any hard numbers.
Yeah, but so the
What?
events of Force Awakens are what, 35 years after Return of the Jedi? Is that supposed to be basically canon? So let's just
Sounds about
assume.
right.
Let's just assume. So if it's 35 years, then, and Kylo Ren, let's just say he's 20 in the Jedi sequences. That still puts us 15 years out from the burning of the Academy to what we're seeing right now.
Right. So this is like 24 years after the Battle of Endor, which would be, what, 30 about? No, not quite. Years?
So it's
about 30 years after BBY.
So this is about,
ABY?
let's say
this
if
is
he's
confusing.
late teen, this is 12 or 13 years after the burning of the Academy. Although, no, it'd be even less than that because they didn't immediately just pop out a baby after Battle of Endor. Like, oh yeah, by the way.
I think they did, actually.
Pretty close, yeah.
It still would have been a year after.
Yeah, within a year.
Yeah.
I don't
3
know.
months
Maybe
after the
not.
Battle of Endor.
Maybe like that they told
We're brother and
they're
sister, and by the way, things happened
Right.
on Cloud City.
Yeah.
Right.
But I've been in Carbonite for how long? They lied to. Oh no, you've only been in Carbonite for 2 months.
Yes.
Yeah. Why do all the
It's
calendars?
the Carbonite
sickness.
yeah.
Yes. Your hindsight will return in time.
So let's say even 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't believe Kylo Ren has been in Snoke's thrall for 10 years. It doesn't feel that way.
Well, he did training.
Or that he's accomplished much at all.
That too.
I mean,
There's a
Like Kylo Ren has been with Snoke half as long as Anakin was with the Emperor.
I think that's what all this again.
and Starkiller Base was already being
Right.
crafted at the time of Jedi Fallen Order, right? Because I played that game, and
When does
part
that
of the
take
stuff,
place?
part of it takes place on Ilum, where the Jedi would mine their kyber crystals or get their kyber crystals for their lightsabers.
I'm sure they didn't do the mining themselves. I'm sure
But
there's some
what
other
about
little things doing the actual mining.
caretakers. In that the Empire was already there digging the channel that would become the channel you see in Starkiller Base at the time of, which I think is like 10 years prior to the events in A New Hope.
So I'm backing it. We've lost a lot of people who don't care about what year anything happened. But
No,
I was looking up
there are things that
'cause-
happened in this movie that are just timeline. This is baffling.
a week or two ago, I think Patrick was telling us that we should. A lot of what we're looking for happens in the comic book Rise of Kylo Ren, written by former guest of the show Charles Soule, and this pins it to in 28 ABY. The Jedi Temple of Luke Skywalker has been destroyed and is still burning as Ben Solo watches. So where he freaks out and destroys the Jedi Temple and is all that. So that is 28
So it's only
ABY.
been a few years. If we're like 30, early 30s ABY of the events of Force Awakens.
Right. So maybe is that like 2 years or something like that?
I guess we'll never know.
Visually, he's aged a lot on that island, considering that flash. I would say it's been at least 5 years he's on that island then.
I think it's
That's
probably a lot
Force
like the
Awakens,
ObiWan
34
thing.
ABY.
Where,
So it's 6 years, I'll say.
So really,
That
in the
seems-
grand scheme of things, not that long for the universe to forget him.
Luke?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we don't know how famous he was before
on all of the Hollow
going into
programs.
yeah.
Right.
Well, speaking of Luke and the training, I love this training here, and we hear Luke's explanation for what the Force is. It's not about lifting rocks. It's the energy between all things, a tension, a balance that binds the universe together. It's interesting that comparing this to the original explanation of the Force we heard from Obi-Wan Kenobi, which to our ears has almost like, it's like scripture. We all, can quote it and stuff. It's like,
I will say when
something
reading like either the little golden book or like the story of Star Wars or something to my kids, and they will basically like paraphrase that, but I'll go off script and I'll be like, well, the Force is what gives the Jedi his power. I'll do the whole bit because I'm like, you can't just say like, oh, the Force is an energy field. You have to, let me give you the whole iteration here.
Well,
so that's because we know it backwards and forwards like scripture.
Don't even bring it up to Dad.
But it's funny that we know all that by heart, but Luke only heard it one time. So Luke, it was just like, I don't remember exactly how Ben described it. So it's kind of like this is like a mix of his
energy thing.
Again, don't know how many refresher courses were taken with Obi-Wan's ghost.
Yeah,
like, can you tell me one more time what was the thing that you said about the Force?
Although it's probably like art. No one can ever really come up with a definition, but like Stone Jedis just like to debate what the Force is.
Yeah.
I think Obi-Wan's, remember, notoriously slippery Obi-Wan, I think his, he was paraphrasing, and Luke is giving her the kind of dead on, according to scripture answer, because he's been living with the Jedi texts. Granted, he hasn't read them fully because they were not page turners, but
and he can't read.
I bet he's referred to them and is able to quote exactly what it is, whereas Obi-Wan's just kind of like, oh yeah, it's like a energy field. It's between us.
Qui-Gon used to say it was like cool, man.
Well, one interesting difference is that Luke says it's an energy between all things, whereas, of course, Ben Kenobi said it's an energy field created by all living things. So this leaves room for it. We can have a robot Jedi because it's a force between all things. So get with it, Star Wars. Give us a robot Jedi.
Well, I mean, with Skippy, the Jedi droid, right?
Oh,
but
yeah,
he's no longer canon.
Not yet.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it does. So, well, because that extends to, I mean, I guess that is that retcon to be like, well, how do they lift rocks? You know what I mean? If it's just created by all living things, I mean,
there's organisms floating in the air,
right?
Then surround the rock they want to lift.
It's a teamwork.
Surround the rock, the rugged rascal. No, the yeast. There you go. The wild yeast. They're using that to float rocks.
Wild yeast can't be broken.
I do. Yeah, I also I love kind of reiterating that, and it I love how it kind of mirrors, Rey's foray into the Force, kind of mirrors, Luke's foray into the Force, which is great. But I did have the question of was he carrying the leaf only for that gag? Just to like tickle her hand and then hit her with it.
He also likes to just toss things over his shoulder.
That's true. Yeah.
That's like his move. That's the one. He has no force powers anymore because he shut himself off, but
he just throws everything manually.
Yeah.
Right.
Just garbage, just whatever. Rocks.
Should have had Rey look over the edge and there's all like beer cans and bottles and garbage.
Yeah.
Just covered like the whole
That's my throwing spot.
There's like sacred
half a dozen
garbage pile.
Yeah. Half a dozen of the same TV remote because he keeps having to order them to replace them because he throws them.
Yeah. It's like, you can just change the batteries. What?
Many a Jedi has disposed of their garbage back there.
He threw his X-Wing into the
Yes. Yeah. He tossed it over by...
He lifted it up. And...
Yeah. Luke might not understand how water really works too well because he lives in the desert planet. Doesn't everything just dissolve?
That could have been a bonding moment. I'm actually shocked that wasn't a bit of bonding dialogue of like, we both grew up on desert planets.
Yeah,
we got sand.
That would have
been
a nice little bonding thing. I guess they don't really have too much downtime together.
No, they were there for a day. They trained for a day, and it was over.
She shows up.
I've got a 7:15. We're gonna have to wrap this up.
So. I mean, wouldn't it have been great? Like, isn't all this water weird?
Right. It's like somebody's evaporator's broken, right? Am I right?
Oh, evaporator humor.
Yeah.
Water as far as the eye can see.
You imagine how much we'd make if we brought this back to our respective home worlds? Oh, forget about it.
Yeah, this is like liquid sand.
And Force Ghost Anakin pops up. He's like, what?
Okay, Dad, I get it.
So Luke, so she uses I think it's her good gag. I'll admit it. Where she says reach out, and she sticks her hand out, and Luke kind of almost like looks at the camera, almost like a like an Oliver Hardy shaking his head.
Oh yeah, which is purely probably where Mark Hamill was pulling that reference from. This is him getting to do a physical bit.
How did she not open her eyes when he started tickling her hand with the leaf? I don't care if someone tells you, hey, close your eyes. If I suddenly start thinking I'm using magic powers to do, and I would totally open my eyes. So,
well,
in your
face.
face.
That was part of the training.
So jaded about the Force already.
That's why you're not a Jedi, Alex.
You can't center yourself enough to believe in the Force.
Yeah.
No, but she's certainly, I mean, the thing that really shows through character-wise is that she is sincere in wanting to learn and immediately trusting of him to be a teacher, which he kind of betrays in that moment of, and, you know, she's committed. She is committed to whatever he says is going to be the journey to figure this out.
So, Ben and so Yoda is kind of like Yoda does both sides. Yoda is funny and also serious, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is generally serious when he comes to
Kenobi,
just obtuse,
Well, he didn't really get to train Luke very much, but it's fun to imagine.
I'm not going to tell you anything true.
It's fun to imagine Obi-Wan last time I trained.
Yeah, I mean he's basically in witness relocation.
But it would be funny if he was as grouchy and impatient with Luke as Luke is with Rey. You know, when Luke's doing the thing on the Falcon and he gets shot, and he's like, "No, I can't do it." And
no, it'd be great if he was like handing the lightsaber over to Luke, and Luke he just like whaps him on the top of the hand in the hut.
Yeah, exactly.
This was your father's lightsaber.
Grabby.
No touchies.
Daisy Ridley.
Mm-hmm.
Good job here. Ken, have you seen her in other films? She hasn't done as many films as one would think.
No, she did some TV work in the UK.
Mm-hmm. She's done a lot of voices, a lot of voice work. I looked at her IMDb page.
With Tom Holland.
Yes, and Galen Erso himself, Dutch superstar Mads Mikkelsen, is in that also. So that's a Star Wars kind of. Wonder if they have any scenes together, and I bet they're like, "Oh, Death Stars, right?"
Yeah.
But did you? I didn't see that other one. She was in the Orient Express.
She was. I mean, she was pretty straight-laced in that. You know, sort of English proper.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No, I mean she's got a lot of range. If you saw her, also she did the Great British Bake Off Celebrity Edition.
Oh, I heard about that
week before last. Yeah. And she is one of those actresses that clearly there's a lot of untapped potential, which was nice about this, that it did tap into sort of comedy abilities and timing that. And exploring her as a character, because again, you really don't get a sense in Force Awakens of characters in it.
How so?
To the extent that I think this decided to really explore these personalities. Like, you know, you get like the broadest stroke of Finn. You get the broadest stroke of Poe. You almost get like this is the action figure on the back of the card description of the broad strokes of a character. But this was the film to really, you know, for some people's hatred towards the film came out of, let's explore the exact personalities of these characters.
I guess in that sense, it's like closer to Empire, where Empire was a similar thing, where it was a lot of, you know, people repairing the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, you learn more about Han in Empire as just day-to-day Han than, you know, the broad beats that you get in A New Hope.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's what a second film should be. It should be the character piece that allows you to live with these characters a bit more.
Right.
And breathe with them for good or ill. Because it may contradict what your initial impressions were of those characters in the first film.
It just occurred to me, and I know we've said this a million times, but did they call this planet Act 2 because it's Act 2 of the story?
Unclear. I think it might have been named when it appeared at the end of Force Awakens, but that
But
could very
setting
well,
up Act
setting up.
2.
They're like, we're going to
Yeah.
lead you to Act 2.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that seems a very J.J. Abrams thing to do.
Right.
And also a see ya, figure that out.
Right.
Little did he realize that would come back to haunt him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, for good or ill.
It would
Ken-
be, I don't know, that might be a whole different, we have like Corporal MacGuffin and all this other stuff and, like add in all these, totally
Yeah.
kind of, inside baseball film
Yeah.
or scripting terms or whatever.
Like this
It's
character's
hard to
popular
make
with
names.
women between 18 and 34. So let's, call that one.
Right.
It's really hard to come up with names. If you can come up with things that make you
Yeah.
snicker in the moment and like, oh, that's clever, then fine.
Ken, do you remember the first time you saw The Last Jedi and your impressions of it?
It would have been opening night.
The first time you saw The Last Jedi.
It would have been opening night. Maybe the first showing.
Where
mean,
was this?
Where did I see Last Jedi? This might
It
have
was
been
a
in
long
L.A.
time ago. Fancy.
That I saw this. I think this might have been after I'd already gone to L.A. Because I remember Rise of Skywalker. I watched the night. I watched a midnight show. When I had a 6 a.m. flight to fly to L.A.
Wow.
Wow.
And boy, that was a disappointment on so many levels. So many poor, regrettable choices. I think this might have been in LA, but it would have been one of those things to get in as soon as possible so it wasn't spoiled
Yeah.
Right.
by anyone. So yeah, it would. In my initial I liked it in a qualified way, in that it definitely was one that I had to sit with for a bit because a lot happened, and there was a reconciliation between the expectations of Luke Skywalker's arc and going, oh, okay, so we're walking back the hero narrative and the happy endings. But then I had to go, oh, but Force Awakens already did that. I mean,
Right.
it basically blew up the whole idea of a happily ever after for everyone and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, in that sense, yeah.
Go ahead.
In that sense, I liked it because there's no such thing as a happy ending for anyone. I mean, it's,
Yeah, if
we're
you're
all
gonna
doomed.
pick the story back up again, and also a lot of the things that the film was criticized for was set up in Force Awakens. I mean, the idea
Oh, yeah.
of
Yeah.
Luke walking away and being absent and being a recluse on this island, that was all what was handed to Rian Johnson. To like, okay, you figure this out. Why is he there? What
Yeah.
happened? What caused this?
Right.
So the idea of like Luke's a jerk, well, that was set up already. That's where
Yeah.
we're left. I liked what it made you question about the sort of reckless abandon of heroic gestures with
Mhm.
Poe's character and arc throughout. Like, okay, there are consequences to these sort of sticking your neck out actions, and who are you doing it for? Are you doing it for fortune and glory? Are you doing it for the idea of I'm going to pull this off because I'm going to make those broad gestures and be the hero? Yeah, well, think about consequences. And it was nice to see that explored within a Star Wars narrative of actual, oh yeah, I mean, we've basically destroyed the Resistance. We're down to fitting the entire Resistance on the Falcon by the end of this movie. And what are the consequences of that? And knowing that it was an Act 2, that it's the middle film, that it's not going to end on it's going to end on a note of, well, we got to fix this, and we're intending to fix it, but things have gone really badly. things are not good.
Yeah, it's strange because I think that and ironically that they're on the planet Act 2, I don't feel like this feels like the second act of a 3-act sequence. It feels like the third part of a 2-part It feels like
The
a third part of a two-part
series.
series. No,
Yeah.
it feels like this. It feels like the conclusion to me feels like the end of a trilogy rather than setting up a third movie.
Right.
So, like, there's no real cliffhangers as to like what happened. There's no unresolved questions about the characters and stuff. It's
but the overall, I mean, your villain's still out there. Your bad guys, and
Right.
you haven't, you're not in a happy place for any
Right.
of your
Oh, yeah.
characters or their future.
but there's also no like, okay, well, this is a hint as to what's to come. It's totally just
Yeah, there isn't there isn't an explicit we have to go get Han back.
right. Yeah. So
Right.
Everyone is together. Who's left is together at the end of this film. Your
Literally,
group
yeah.
isn't split up, which kind
Yeah.
of made it awkward that the beginning of Rise of Skywalker was, how do we split all these people up?
well, they generally only tend to clump up at the ending and beginning of episodes. Like at the beginning of this one, I guess even Rey wasn't even there. So no, in this one they don't clump up until the very end. But
I also liked where
not a lot of gang action in this one.
It's frustrating to talk about this, knowing what eventually happened with all of these story beats.
Mm-hmm.
But I came away really liking the idea of going, no, Rey nobody.
Right.
This leaves it's not this closed blood system, this bloodline system that dictates who gets to be the special hero in the narrative.
It's un-American.
It's limiting. It's
Yeah.
limiting and off-putting to have it be so tied to a lineage like that. And I like the idea that Ryan John's like, let's open it up. Let's give everyone the idea that they could be this.
Yeah.
That this is an aspirational for everyone sort of thing, that you could tap into the Force.
Plus, the more you make it a squabble between the Palpatine family and the Skywalker family, it's like, can't you guys just get out of here? Like, you're wrecking the entire galaxy over this stuff.
Yeah.
Who cares? Just
where it took the Poe narrative, which it did fix by the end. He learned a lesson. He got to a point where he could be a leader who considers these things.
Mhm.
Let me once again point out that the problems with the lineage being a factor can be traced back to Return of the Jedi and the Phantom Menace. So it's not
Right.
like developed from the it's not
Right,
it's
but
like they
building
made it
on
up.
what has come before.
Right,
Yeah.
but it's also a move in this film for Ryan to try and open things up.
Right.
Only
Yeah.
for things to go, no. Back
Right.
back to this.
Yeah. But in a sense, it's like, well, let's go back to Star Wars. You know what I mean? Let's
It
make
depends, I
things
guess,
more-
on how you define what the story of Star Wars is. Is it just a 9-episode cycle telling a very limited window story of just this family lineage?
Right. What?
I think it also could be both.
Let me also defend myself in saying that I love Rey Nobody, but I do understand that walking it back is to fully. It's not like that came out of nowhere. It's like, oh, that's that's Return of the Jedi and Phantom Menace doing that.
Right. But just as a person viewing it as a storytelling potential, I like
Right.
that as a story.
Yes, me too.
I liked walking out of it with that feeling of, it does open it up and make it sort of this more egalitarian view of the Force.
Yeah.
And I liked the character beats throughout this. I like the arc that was given, which again led to frustration later, with Finn and bringing Rose into it. I like that. I like that they actually got a story. For as much as people talk about Canto Blight and that being a digression that was unnecessary, I like that they got to go off and have an adventure and do things and be active participants in the story that had a story thing that they were trying to accomplish that was a necessary thing.
Right.
That also led into the narrative of sort of sometimes things don't work out. Like you might go through all of that for nothing because at the end of the day, it doesn't work. And
That's the
how do
thing.
you recover from that?
Was it a necessary thing? I don't know. But that's
Yeah.
that thing came up the other day. It's also it's like the Indiana Jones thing. It's like, well, Raiders would end the same if he didn't
Yeah.
go on that
I mean,
left,
it all depends on what you want out of a movie going and storytelling experience. Do you view digressions as, oh god, this added a half hour onto the film? Or do you view what happens within those digressions and go, oh, I know a little bit more about Finn now as a character and what motivates him because he got to go off and do this thing and have these beats and have these discussions and get called into question his naivete, much in the way of Rey's naivete being called out by Luke in this training of going, you have a simplistic view of the galaxy. You view it as black and white, going back to that mosaic that's in the Jedi Temple and drawing this hard line between these things and go, no, it's gray.
It doesn't matter if it's black or white.
Yeah. And ultimately you're going to have to navigate this, and you need to be aware that it is not a hard line between these things, because otherwise you will fail at this because of that.
Yeah,
so what I'm saying is justice for Canto Blight. Not my minute, but let whoever picks that up later.
We'll set it up.
That'll be up to them to defend it. So,
But that's coming out of it. I like the narrative ambition. Whereas Force Awakens very much felt like, here's what Star Wars was, nostalgia trip. Here are all the beats that are familiar to you.
Yeah. Well, they had a different mandate. They had to
they had to fix. They had to bring people
back into it again.
Yeah. Which is why I'm not saying that as a point of criticism. It's more just that's the familiarity. This was the movie that, like, okay, all these concepts were dumped into the lab. These are all these characters introduced. Let's get to know them.
Yeah.
Let's explore where this is at. Let's make these fleshed out characters beyond just, the introductions of these characters.
Yeah.
Right.
And then sort of walking that back in the next film and making all of the characters just merely subservient to the narrative to where it's contradictory throughout was frustrating.
We'll talk about that in 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
but that's what I like. At the end of the day, bottom line, I like the ambition, and that Ryan tried to expand and narratively open doors. He opened more doors than he closed throughout this.
That's true. Anything else for minute number?
This has been my TED Talk.
49. Anything else for minute number 49? 49.
No. I think that's
that hand whap. Just that hand whap.
We got one more.
Exquisite timing.
Well, if you absolutely cannot bear to not listen to Pete or I talk, you'll be happy to know that we have some side projects we'd like to tell you about. I do a podcast with my brother called Godfather Minute, which, get this, we break down The Godfather 1 minute at a time and talk about it. So
that's crazy.
I know. We're nuts. We should be at the funny farm. It's ridiculous. So anyway, you can check that out at godfatherminute.com. And Pete, tell us about ABCDTOS.
It's not minute by minute. It's going through all of the original series episodes of Star Trek alphabetically. Because, release order is so stale and stodgy. Who wants release order? So we're going through alphabetically, and it's a fun. It's like a shuffle. It's like a curated shuffle. So we get to jump around first season, third season.
What's an episode you've done recently?
Let's see. We've it's going to break my brain because I'm remembering what we've recorded versus what's been released. But I think Galileo 7 is probably right around here somewhere, which is one of my favorites. So we get to talk about that.
Ken, you got any side projects you want to plug?
Oh, what side project don't I have? In addition to A Bit of a Chat, which is my main sort of conversation series, of which an episode with you two will be coming out in the near future, which we recorded a long time ago, but it's been a long year. I do a podcast with a theme park designer friend of mine called the D&D Ticket, where professional theme park designers and a guest creative are all presented an IP that they are surprised with and have to, on the fly, create theme park attractions.
Wow.
Based around that. And you can find that at D&D Ticket on Twitter.
That sounds like it should be a reality show.
It does seem like it should be a reality show.
It's been fun. We've done Beetlejuice. We've done Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. We've done Clue. We've done Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Please tell me the Clue ride had 10 different endings or something.
You'll have to listen to the journey. And we've had great guests like Hal Lublin and Mark Gagliardi and Steve Agee, and just had an episode with Jason Ritter. So great amount of fun. And I also produce We Got This with Mark and Hal, Mark Gagliardi and Hal Lublin. So I do a lot of stuff, and some stuff I can't even talk about.
Oh, secret podcasts that only the cool people get to listen to.
I'll tell you guys later. You can be in.
So if you want a podcast that anyone can listen to, join us tomorrow for another Star Wars Minute.
Can I come back?